In this video, I'm going to give you guys 7 things no one told me about Cairo, Egypt before visiting. As I'm moving from country to country, and I'm sure other travelers, you've experienced this where you're not able to do all of the research of a place because you're booking and planning things last minute. So you're only going to look up the basics, visa requirements, their currency, neighborhoods to stay in, neighborhoods to stay out of, language, etc., etc. Therefore, there's always going to be something that surprises you. And also, this video is for people who are planning a trip to Cairo, Egypt in the near future. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get to the video and start off with the first one. There are 2 things that you're constantly going to have to deal with. One of them is the flies. If you think mosquitoes are bad, I'm telling you right now, you have not experienced Egyptian flies. Ruthless. I don't know if you ever had the experience where you're walking on the street and then there's that one gnat that's just following you, flying into your eyes, into your forehead, and it just won't go away. So you have to run into a building to try to shake it. Well, expect to do some of that here if you plan to walk like I did. And yes, I understand that in my thumbnails, you may see the same shirt over and over, but I promise you, I have about 4 or 5 shirts of the same color. And also, I'm the guy, I take about 3 showers a day. So I'm pretty sure I'm not walking around smelly, at least not in the beginning of the day, maybe towards the end where I'm all sweaty. But either way, no one told me about Egyptian flies. So make sure you work on your karate chop or whatever technique you use to swat them away. Just start working on them before you get to Egypt. The next thing you're going to constantly have to deal with is the hustlers. Now, prior to coming to Egypt, I thought the ones in the Caribbean were the worst. But after my experience here, Egypt is at the top of the list right now. And the main difference is not in, they're both very persistent. And sometimes they don't take no for an answer. But the main difference I notice here is that they will straight out just lie to you. There have been so many times where I was walking to a tourist attraction, and whenever they would try to stop me, they would always try to lie and tell me that the place that I was going to was closed, that it's a holiday, or you can't go there because the president's there or some government official's there. And then they'll try to redirect me somewhere else, usually to their gift shop or their store. Obviously, I would ignore them. And when I would get to the attraction I was going to, what do you know? It's open. People are everywhere. You can tell them anything. They're going to say it's closed. If you tell them, hey, I can't go today. I'm going to the airport. I'm late for my flight. They'll tell you, no, the airport is closed. All the planes are broke. They're fixing the planes. You can't go till tomorrow. So that's one of the things you need to keep in mind. The hustlers here, they're persistent and they have no problem lying directly to your face. Next up on the list is that Cairo, Egypt reminded me so much of another city that I've been to, which was Havana, Cuba. One reason is because of the buildings. We're in the desert, so there's a lot of the brownish buildings that have a lot of dust on them. Obviously not in all parts. And then in Havana, Cuba, it was similar, especially in the historic center where there were many brownish buildings that fortunately weren't kept in good shape. In Cairo, obviously mainly in the tourist area, just like other places, but the hustling in Cuba was similar. If you're in the tourist area, the hustling. And last but not least, this was the main reason why it brought back memories of my time in Cuba. And that was the street walking. You're gonna find yourself walking on the street instead of the sidewalk many times because usually on the sidewalk, there's always a barrier. Whether it be a barricade, a tree planted right in the middle, motorcycles parked, cars parked. So walking on the side of the road is nothing new. I would say it's a huge cultural thing in Cairo. And you eventually get used to it. Just make sure to walk against traffic if you can, so you can see it coming towards you. But that's also something that was very common in Cuba. Not on the major avenues or anything like that, but once you get into the neighborhoods, you'll see a lot of that. Now, obviously, in every area, no, there are sidewalks that are spacious with no cars on them. I understand that. So it's not like this in every area. But if you stay in Cairo long enough, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you're probably going to be doing it as well. Next up on the list is that every country has a certain personality. It has a certain draw, which makes people visit. For example, some people go to countries for the beaches. Some people go for business. Some people go for, food, etc., etc. The point I'm trying to make is that not only Cairo, but Egypt as a whole, I believe, is a place that you go to mainly for the history. Meaning that if you're not interested in the past of this country, I don't think you're going to enjoy it as much. Yes, are there beaches here? Definitely. You're gonna see one of them in this video. Is there nightlife or places you can go to for parties? Yes, but I don't think it's the country's strong suit. Is the food delicious? Personally, I enjoyed it. I like the, I've been pronouncing it incorrectly. I think it's kosheri. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. Kosheri, along with the other foods of this region, the dates and stuff. But if you're not into pyramids, temples, tombs, then I don't think you're gonna enjoy it here. Because I noticed that many of the cities here, their main attractions involved around stone structures. So if you plan to travel around Egypt, you have to really be into those things. Since we're on the topic of history and sites, this next one is about the pyramids. And let me just say that I did not know they were so massive. If and when you go, I think that's going to surprise you the most. Not just the history behind them, but again, just the sheer size of them all. You're really going to feel like an ant standing next to them. Also, they're a lot closer than I imagined. Well, they're about 30 minutes from the city center. I always assumed that I would have to book a flight to a small town and catch a camel ride to the middle of the desert and then hike over a mountain or something like that to see the pyramids. But nope, you can literally catch an Uber there, which is what I did. I caught an Uber to the entrance and then I had a tour already set. This next one isn't anything serious. It's just something that kind of caught my eye. When I looked at Egypt on the map, I noticed that all the major cities were in a straight line, north to south. And then when I looked closer, I noticed, okay, the cities were built right next to the Nile River because obviously life is where water is. You have other cities along the coast, but the major ones, and also from what I understand, the majority of empires back in the day were right along the Nile. And that's another reason why the Nile is so important to this country. Someone posted a comment saying, if there was no Nile, there would probably be no Egypt, or it would look drastically different. Therefore, the Nile is it's like sacred to this country. We have two more on the list. The first one is make sure when you are in restaurants, eateries, that you double check the receipt because they include VAT tax, which I believe is just sales tax, and then a service charge. Many of the places I went to, as far as restaurants, had, I think it was 12%. I forgot how it went, 12% surcharge and 14% VAT tax. Basically, overall, it was roughly around 20 to 24% added to the bill, which I know some countries do, but the previous 3-4 places I've been to, they didn't do that. So when I got to Egypt, it kind of caught me off guard again, like, oh, whoa, extra 20%, man. And lastly, I didn't realize that Egypt has their own beach life. You know, this side of the world, I didn't know too much about. I just know Islam and then temples and pyramids and mosques. But Egypt has a strip of beaches along the Mediterranean Sea and then along the Red Sea. But anyone coming to Egypt, understand that you can check out the pyramids, eat the kosheri food, check out the belly dancing, and also you can end your trip at the beach. But with all that being said, these are the 7, I think it's 7 or 8, not 7. These are the 7 things no one told me about Cairo, Egypt before visiting. Hopefully this video has helped some of you all, especially if you're planning a trip here. Also, I just want to say that my time in Egypt was great. I didn't stay in the main tourist areas, so my experience might be just a tad bit different from everyone else's. The people I interacted with were great, very helpful. So I would say don't let the hustlers paint the picture that all Egyptians are like that. But anyways, thanks for watching. I hope that it helped you. I'm gonna catch you guys at the next one. We should be in a new country. Actually, to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, I'm already there. I'm making this video from the new country, so stay tuned for those videos as well. Anyways, deuces.